I have a series on this channel called Starter Decks. The decks on these videos are meant to be a starting point for each clan. So in case you want to start out playing that clan, but it's the day of, you can jump right into it. Maybe not climbing the ladder, but at least like feeling out the deck's play styles. However, this video is very late. I wanted to do this for each of the new clans that had came out at the beginning of May. It is, however, a lot later than that. So to at least make up for that, I thought I would just throw all 3 decks that I wanted to make. Because sadly, Bermuda Triangle doesn't have a starter deck. It does have a free-to-play deck, which I will be trying to make as soon as possible once I pull all the pieces. But the starter decks can be made from the 3 other clans that were added. I will not be showing any gameplay footage just because my phone, I don't think, could handle capturing the game footage for 3 different decks all at once. And secondly, some of these decks are a little awkward. One of them, which I consider like the most competent, is the one that I have the least finished, sadly. And I don't have all the PGs for these decks yet either. So here are like the timestamps of what decks I'll talk about. So if you're only interested in one, you don't have to like watch through or skip through the whole video. We're going to start with Dark Irregulars because I think this is the easiest to build upon deck. What I mean by that is I think this is the easiest deck to easily start just throwing in the double and triple rares that you're going to start pulling. The deck centers around the Mega Blasts that can be done in this deck, both by Still Vampire and Demon Eater. Both of them have the same ability of at the beginning of your turn you soul charge one and they become a 12k attacker. Then they have the Mega Blast ability of Soul Blast 6, Counter Blast 4. Still Vampire's ability is that you can pick a rearguard your opponent controls, place that as their Vanguard, and then at the start of their next turn they can ride any card in their soul, so they'll probably go for the original target they had. While Demon Eaters is a on-hit nuke the opponent's board. Both have a place in the deck. Still Vampires is more of a finisher in my book, because what you can do is you can select an opponent's grade 2. That's an interceptor. So unless they have a 10k vanilla out, you're at least going to be lowering the threshold that you need to be able to hit, and you're essentially retiring an interceptor. So I play the 4 Earth Gunners because it boosted can get over a lot of defensive triggers. Bizzlebub is kind of useless in this deck. He is kind of cool because he can ramp you in soul. He does disable your Mega Blast because of how much of a counter blast he requires. So he is the first card to cut as soon as possible. As you can see, I only have 2 of the PGs, but because this is a start deck, obviously you don't need them, but they are essential for once you want to start climbing the ladder. The 4 Alluring Succubus are in here just for easy soul charging. Then the 3 Prisoner Beast and the 2 Grade 1 Amons are just here as boosters. The Grade 1 Amon I really like because he is a 9k attacker very easily in Dark Irregulars, so you can kind of splash him into decks once you start building upon them because it's very easy to hit that threshold. Flirtatious Succubus is in here for the same reason as Alluring Succubus. It's just an easy soul charge. Werewolf Seeger is in here because we need the defensive power that his 10k butt will give us. Decadent Succubus is very important, I think, because it gives you a huge amount of soul charging early game so that you can get to your threshold numbers very quickly. You don't want to play too many of her because she only works on Vanguard. So late game, she is just a 9k vanilla. And then the Grade 2 Amon is cool because he is a 12k attacker, but he is only a 9k on your opponent's turn. So I don't think it's a bad idea to start cutting him before Decadent Succubus. With this deck, you have a lot of flexibility in the trigger lineup. I'm playing the 4 crit, 5 draw, and 4 heal. You can definitely play 9 draw. You can even splash in some stands if you want, but I think the 4 crit is essential for making this starter deck at least be able to have some early game pressure. Moving on to Dimension Police, I think they have the coolest kind of starter deck kit. It is based around Enigman Rain. She has the ability that if she is at 12k before she attacks, she can restand a rear guard. This has synergy with Miracle Beauty. She has the ability that when she restands, you can stand up the rear guard behind her, making for multi-attack columns in Dimension Police. This is very interesting because the rest of the Dimension Police lineup does not really go for this playstyle. So I think in just the starter deck realms, this deck is a lot stronger. But in contrast, it is the hardest deck to upgrade because the rest of the Dimension Police lineup doesn't synergize with Miracle Beauty or Enigma and Rain. The nice thing about the Miracle Restanding deck is that you only need to get to a 12k threshold versus a 14 or 15k threshold. This makes the lineup a lot easier to build because that means we only need 2k boosters and not 4k boosters. We can get those 2k boosts with Mass Police Grandeur. He has the ability that when he attacks, you have plus 2k to your Vanguard. It doesn't need to hit, so technically you can just swing it at Vanguard without a boost, expecting it not to hit just to get Enigma and Rain to his threshold. And then Cosmo War has the ability that you can tap him, so he won't be able to boost, but he does help Enigma and Rain get to her threshold. I played the cute little robot boy. Oh, I love him so much. For the free access to get to a 2k booster so that the deck is essentially always on. The other rare booster that we have is Cosmo Grape. He has the ability that on place you can give your Vanguard plus 4k. This is overkill in this deck because we only need to get plus 2k, but it does help us make bigger numbers, so it still does have a place in the deck. Same with Enigma and Shine. He has the ability that on hit you can give your Vanguard plus 3k. It is not as good because it is free. It doesn't use up any of our resources, but it does require a hit on the Vanguard. So that means if he tries to take out an Interceptor, it won't really do anything. So that does mean you can send in Miracle Beauty to take out an Interceptor, then send in Enigma and Shine at the Vanguard, followed up by Enigma and Rain at the Vanguard, restanding Miracle Beauty. Throughout the rest of the deck, other units that I really like in here are Platinum Ace. Since we're not playing the Enigma and Ride Chain, we have flexibility in the Vanguard slots for our grade 2 game. Platinum Ace's ability is that when he attacks, if he's at 13k, he gets an extra crit. So in combination with a Grandeur and a Cosmo Roar, that will get him to his threshold. You don't want to play too many Platinum Aces, just like Decadent Succubus, because he is just a 9k vanilla for the rest of the game. We also play the 10k vanilla just to give us a defensive butt. The bad thing about the Dimension Police lineup is that it doesn't have enough commons and rares to fill up the grade 2 slot, so I did need to add in some double rares. The main one that you want to go for is Cosmo Break. If you're crafting, he has the same ability as Cosmo Great, that on place you get a unit plus 4k. This works great with Platinum Ace because it gets him to his 13k threshold on. I also just have Die Lady in here just because it's the only other card I have. Feel free to put whatever else you want in here. I have the 3 8k daisies just to help make bigger numbers on our rear guards, boosted by Miracle Lady. I play the 2 Magical Police Quillet mainly just to help us filter through the deck. This deck needs to get access to our 2k boosters, Enigma and Rain, and Miracle Beauty. If you're missing any of those, the deck doesn't work. So Quillet allows us to search through the deck quicker to get to our pieces that we need. With that whole draw power needed in mind, we do need the 9 draws to help us get through the deck quicker. Now the last deck I'm going to talk about is the Pale Moon start deck. I think this deck is the weakest. To make this deck even slightly playable, you're going to need Purple Trapezist and Nightmare Doll Alice. Without these two, Pale Moon doesn't really have any plays that are going to be able to have any power behind them. With that said, I still want to show you the most basic kind of floor for the deck to then build upon. What the deck relies on in the rare category is Mistress Hurricane. She has the continuous ability that if you have 6 cards in your soul, she is an 11k butt. That includes on your opponent's turn, so it does give you defensive capabilities. She also has the on place on Vanguard, Counterblast 2, and then call a card from your soul. This does give your deck easy access to board fixing, which the deck does need to be able to make better columns. As a backup Vanguard in the rare category, we have Barking Manticore. His first ability doesn't work at all because you need Crimson Beast Tamer and she's a double rare, so until you get 4 copies of her, don't think of adding her to the deck. He does have the on place on Vanguard. You get to draw a card and then place a card from your hand into the soul, which does give you access to certain cards in your soul that want to be placed, which we'll talk about in a second. I have Dark Lord of Pale Moon in here for the same reason as Earth Gunner, just to be able to make better columns. This deck has a weird number of rares and commons too, that you do need to splash in at least 1 double rare, triple rare into the grade 3 slot. I just have Golden Beast Tamer here because she is the best Vanguard that the deck has access to right now. If you want to see me talk more about her, I do have a free-to-play video on this deck. Talking about the grade 2s, the unit that I was talking about that you want to be able to place out of your soul a lot is Jumping Jill. She has the ability that when she's placed from soul, she gets plus 3k, so she is a 12k attacker. I have the 4 Nitro Jugglers in here just for the free soul charging. The deck needs to get to the 6 cards in soul for Mistress's Threshold ability, so that we will be able to get to 11k quicker. We do have Mirror Demon in the deck, which has the same ability as Nightmare Doll Alice. The negative of him is that he is an 8k body, so that means you have to boost him to be able to get him to hit the Vanguard. This does hurt because that means when we do call a card out, it won't have a booster, so it does kind of turn off certain lines of play that the deck wants to do. And then the 3 Barking Cerberus is in here just for the 10k butt. The deck does have some pretty interesting grade 1s. We can get to play Midnight Bunny. She has the ability that when she boosts a unit, if it hits the Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, put her into the soul, and then call another card out. This does give the deck access to Battle Phase Calling and multi-attacking, which the deck highly does need, and doesn't hinder it in a weird way like Mirror Demon does. I have the Skull Juggler in here just for the free soul charging. And then the 1 Dark Metal Bicorn is only in here just for the Dark Lord of Pale Moon plays for the 21k columns. But besides that, he doesn't really add anything to the deck. Hopefully, when the new decks start coming out, we won't have this big dump like this last time, just so I can make these videos a little easier to come out. Let me know how you feel about this whole 3-in-1 video. It wasn't too hard to make, but it was a little awkward to be able to fit everything in one video. I will be making a competitive build for 2 of these 3 decks because I have pulled quite a lot of pieces for some of these. If you've seen any of my free-to-play videos, I think you know which ones I care more about than others. But if not, I guess that'll be a cool surprise. Feel free to watch the free-to-play videos I did on these decks. Even though they're a little old, I still feel like they cover most of the bases that these decks are trying to do. Like, I'm really proud of the Dark Irregular deck video I did, so if you can, please check that out.